welcome to Coffee Talk. We're very excited today because we have a full agenda with our first cousins, customs. So we're here today with Marcela Bermudez, who co-hosts Coffee Talk with us, Denise Calle, who is the head of customs and trade practice for OFW, Lou Terminello, who runs our chair for hospitality. And we are here to talk about what happens in today when you are going through a port of entry, Miami or New York or DC, and what happens, what is being highlighted in immigration today and what is being highlighted in customs. What are we looking for? What are the things that are really our clients keep asking about as we go through? So with that said, we're going to talk about how customs and immigration sometimes can work together and sometimes not, even if they are in the same agency. So when we think of customs, border, immigration, we think of just immigration because Marcela and I are immigration partners. So the first thing we think of going to the airport is the purpose of the trip of our client and what they have today on social media, because that has changed tremendously from 8 months ago. Wouldn't you say, Marcela?
Yeah, that's so far has been the biggest ding, not only when you're coming into the airport, because there's an overlap between customs and immigration, but for us, it even starts earlier. It starts at the embassy before even that visa is issued, but it continues. It's applicants for visas are being told, keep your social media public. You can't even have it private, because if you mark it as private, you're never leaving the embassy with the visa. And it continues into when you come in. When you come into the airport, again, it's going to be an overlap, but when you come into the airport, they can ask to see your social media, ask for your phone, and you have to either provide it, you can refuse, but you're not going to be admitted.
And for those who come under ESTA, what happens? They don't have to get a visa, but they can ask for your phone. And if you do not give them your phone to look at, what happens? You don't get to come in. Remember, when you're at the border coming into a country, you have no rights. You don't have a right to get an attorney and come to the airport and talk to immigration. You're not going to be able to get in. They also look at your contact information on your phone. We unfortunately had a client who had a contact information with someone who was dinged by the FBI. So he was put into what we call secondary for a while and questioned about why he would have someone of that nature on his phone. Like who was this person? Why did he have someone who's a, wanted criminal on his phone? And his visa was denied and he withdrew his petition. But those are the things that they are looking for. And much of the enforcement from immigration, and I don't know about customs, is on AI bots. A lot of it is now on AI bots where they're just putting in that kind of information to see where their enforcement is going. It's done with AI, which is not even a human being. So people are like, I'm sorry, that name is on there, but that's a very common name in, China. I don't know who you're thinking of, but there's only it's like saying I'm from Minnesota. It's like saying Tom Anderson. I mean, 100 names. So I think there are reasons to be worried when you come in. I don't know about you guys, but Denise, when I think about customs, I always think about, plants and cheese. Like that's my main concern when
and money.
And money. I'm always like, oh my God, I did I leave that? What did I do with the peanuts I bought? Am I in trouble?
Yeah, and I think most first, thank you for having me on. It's so exciting to cross paths and see the synergy between customs and immigration because it exists. We're under the same agency. DHS is definitely the parent that oversees every transaction we handle on a regular basis. But I usually handle commercial goods, right? So those come through the port of entry. But there's also hand carries that come just like any other airport, right? Or even through I've had cases that deal with cruise lines. So again, ports of entry are equally treated and customs takes the same approach. And while generally we think, because us as travelers, when we're going to Latin America, we're like, I love this fruit. They don't have it in the US. I want to bring it in. And no, USDA has a huge problem with that because it's for the safety, right? And the spread of some type of infectious disease or some type of nuance. But usually it extends to so much more beyond food. So I've had instances where it's a hand carry of a hand arm, right? Can you travel with those on an airplane? There's ways to get these things done. You know, it could be a Rolex. It could be, look, I've had clients that they buy in the Caribbean, right? And they take advantage of the
Cruises.
duty-free treatment. Declare these things. You can't just be moving cargo without the proper declaration. And that happens all the time. You know, I immediately I came in with ideas that we were going to talk about. And as I talk, I'm like, oh, that's right. This happened with this client. So I had once a client who was traveling abroad in Europe. She works for a university here as a scientist. And her boss tells her, look, you're going to be in an area that they have these rare bio issues for testing. And, again, I'm in the world of customs. I'm not in the world of the commodities, right? And they tell her, go to the lab, pick them up, and bring them with you when you come back. She was on vacation. She wasn't there for that intent. She brings them back with her, and she didn't know that she needed to do just a simple declaration. There was no duty involved, there was no nothing. The implication was it got attached to her immigration status because had you done your due diligence, had you talked to an immigration attorney, had you talked to a customs attorney, you understand that you're moving cargo even though it's not in a container. It's not through a typical process. It's through the airports that you're moving this. So I think that's going back to your question of you think of fruits. I just think of everything. I've also had a case where husband and wife go to France and they go shopping at luxury stores and they bring back these outrageous beautiful coats, and the coats are at a certain value, and when they come in they have to pay duties on those values, and they don't, and what happens is they get seized, and then it's like now I have to fight for my goods and get them early. So it's all types of commodities.
Well, you didn't know, Denise, you brought up really good points, but one point in particular is that, first of all, I don't know how do people just take a chance that no one's going to notice a gun in their luggage? I can't get over the gun thing, or a machete. And number two, I had a very, very fancy dancy client, US citizen, and back in the day, and he really wanted to bring home those Cuban cigars, which is not, he really did.
Yeah.
And he did. And he's like, I got kicked out of global entry and I can't do global entry. How am I going to do this? Customs was completely rude about it. They had no idea. How could this happen? I mean, I understand there's some different laws in place now regarding that kind of stuff. But I mean, it affects you. Customs tags onto your immigration, whether you're a US citizen, they're going to say, they're like, what are they going to do to me? I'm like, not have global entry. He said, I waited 4 hours just to get through. No global entry. So and it was years of just fighting until they did finally take that off. Well, it wasn't that many years, but it seemed like an eternity. And so it does affect your immigration, meaning even if you're a US citizen, it's going to affect your global entry. And all I've had those incidents of what they do, what happens. It's truthfully very, very, and you don't think about it. And some people forget that they even have it.
Actually had a case where it was a food product that came in their child's lunchbox for snacks. And it flagged the parents, right? Because did you put it in your kid's lunchbox? Did you know that it was there? You gave it to them. You knew you were coming to the airport. And it's like, at the end of the day, you have to understand that it's for national security. I'm not going to take away for the seriousness,
purpose,
right? The bigger purpose that,
right.
It's great that we have laws that protect our country and our, the people and Americans overall. But at the same time, we have to understand the responsibilities as travelers that crossing a border is not the same as it was in the 1980s, where you can just easily cross through. Now there's so many different agendas on the back end from different agencies, and that's the bigger picture. I always talk to my clients, and again, I do more commercial issues that get moved through vessel and truck, where you have to know, one, your product like none other and how it's regulated, because then you have to know who regulates you. So that way you don't have an issue at the border. And when it comes to that example of, the parents being flagged now for secondary, and I think it lasted for about 5 years also, and they got kicked off of global entry. And it's unfortunate because, again, it was a snack that went in a kid's lunchbox, right? But I think that they use those examples to teach lessons, right? And you just want to avoid it. I've seen also cases, and Patsy, you hit it on the head, where you think that transaction, and they might take away whatever you're bringing in, they might seize it, right? That's the legal term, but it extends so far beyond just that one interaction and the fight for getting your goods back, right? Avoiding the forfeiture proceeding. And that is that if you have global entry, again, that's only for US citizens. It doesn't matter your status. You get revoked. You get kicked out of the program, so that you have that issue. Then
I want you to walk us through, because
Yeah.
there might be some people who are listening
for sure,
who are like me, who are like, okay, when do I hit customs again? Is it before or after? You're all sweating it, right? My foreign nationals are like, oh my God, I got my visa, or I haven't had a problem so far. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. And then all of a sudden they're like, what do you mean you're taking my manchego?
Yeah,
Like,
I'd like to go
but we
back when
have
you
to
started
go.
with the watches. Watches are huge, right? Everyone likes to
yeah,
go abroad, come back. Like just watches, medication. What are people preparing? These are like the most common, not even
Question.
questions, because people never ask us questions before. It always comes after the fact,
of course, right.
especially medications, or, oh, I'm
Yeah.
traveling and a
Don't forget.
relative is like, could you bring back something? I need this. It only comes from, my family's from Colombia. It's best in Colombia. It's better and cheaper. Can you bring, and it's the
Yeah,
legal kind. The
yeah.
legal kind in Colombia, right? It's a medication, it's over the counter, things that you can get. How do you
Yeah.
prepare, and how are you mindful of what I can or can't bring in? What are the procedures you have to follow?
And also,
And just before I give, like a walkthrough, I think just this moment of conversation lets the viewers know how complex it is to truly travel internationally, right?
yeah.
Like you have to know what's going in your luggage, and it's not to create even more of another layer of stress, because travel is just stressful overall. But if you're traveling with a family, right? And you have more than $10,000 because you want to use cash, don't break it up and put it in $5,000 here, $2,000 there, things like that. That's called staggering. And it's usually what happens is you get asked the question, are you carrying more than $10,000 worth of cash or valuables? You say no because you're thinking myself no, but you're treated as a family. So just from the beginning of how you're packaging your goods to travel for fun, for vacation, or for profession, for business, it's important to understand, what am I putting in my bags? How am I allocating it in my bags or my group of travelers? Because customs is onto it, right? Patty, you had started off with saying it's AI. It's been an AI from my world, right? It's an algorithm that flags you based on the record that exists. So what's the record? If you've never traveled, what does customs have on your record? They know that you have booked travel, that you have booked travel with these people. So they already know if you're traveling in a group. And if they see that the group automatically starts spreading out, that's a red flag. So you have to be really mindful of what's the story that you are drawing out to customs from the moment that you book your travel, and like take it as serious as you can, especially in the current environment. So fine, we get to the airport, we unload, we check our bags, or maybe we're doing, we have a carry-on. You you get on your flight, that has nothing to do with US customs yet. You're not there. But when you land and if you have your carry-on, you start walking through, and then you usually arrive at Miami, you have kiosks now because everything's going to digital phase. And they're forms. Before these kiosks existed, flight attendants used to give out forms saying, do you have anything to declare? And that form,
I remember that. I mean, who here does not?
Yeah.
of course,
Which made it a little easier because it prompted the question, but now we're not prompted, right?
right, exactly. And it is a proactive requirement to declare. The moment you get asked the question to declare, you already violated the regulation. That's huge. And most people don't understand. And we put that in our petition. And I always tell the client, look, we'll put it there. Like, had you known, you would have, but it's on you to know that. And here's a wrinkle so everyone is, because it's always like a perfect world and then the reality, right? So these kiosks that overtook the form, sometimes that question doesn't even come up because you click the wrong button, or you like, again, it's a system. You say yes to something, it might skip 3 pages. So if you know you have something that is worth over $10,000 on you, you do not necessarily have to pay duties on that. Again, that's a general statement. There are times where duties are flagged, but the risk of not declaring is the risk of seizure and having to do an administrative fight with customs. So let's say we go through our kiosk, we don't get that question of, do you have anything to declare? And we do have something to declare, right? Just talking about the value one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to physically go up to an officer and say, I have something to declare. I didn't get asked that question in the kiosk. Or when you make your line, and again, we get split up, right? Citizens and non-citizens. So you make your lines, and the moment you get to the actual officer, the first thing you say is, look, I did everything through the kiosk and I didn't get this question. I have something to declare. And you have your paperwork with you of what you're declaring. So in a perfect world, you have someone that's coming to counsel and saying, I'm traveling with this, or this is usually the cases that are more proactive. Um, Family passes away, there's goods that, they've inherited and they need to bring everything into the United States, and they want to make sure they do that correctly. Great. We create a file folder and you just carry it, and there's a cover letter. You don't even have to talk to customs, say, I'm prepared for this. They're like, great, I don't have to worry about you. And they go into their system. Maybe you have a flag because of some other issue. That's something different, right? But I want to kind of take a pause there and explain, like, there's so many instances from the moment you get off the plane to the moment that you're in front of an officer that they're looking into your system, where so many red flags could have happened that would have sent you to secondary, and likely some type of seizure would have occurred, right? Like they would take your goods from you, or they assess something that then goes on your record permanently. I'm going to take a pause there because there's so many things that happen at that moment in
I
secondary
want
and
Lou
Patsy and
travels.
Marcela know.
I want to ask Lou if he's had any issues, because he travels all the time, or him and his clients. You're like an international traveler, Lou. You're always on the road, on a cruise, on this. Your clients also travel a lot. You have very, international clients that are always globetrotting.
In
Do
and
they,
out.
do
Yeah, our
they ever?
clients are coming in and out all the time. I just got back from Europe last week, and some of the things that Denise points out, ring so true. I'm trying to get my prosciutto from Parma in, and I'm trying to figure out a way of doing that. And it's just you want to beat your head up against the stone. But the issue our clients face, we inboard a number of clients yearly from different places, and they come in because they're doing lease negotiations, they're doing and one of the purposes for them investing in the U.S. is to ultimately get the proper authorizations to stay and to even live here. So they don't have any of that at upstart time and on inboarding time, when they're required to come in and out, meeting with architects and lawyers for the lease negotiations and all of that kind of good stuff. We had one party that was finally stopped on one of their stops at the airport coming in when they landed in MIA, and they were grilled about the number of times that they had been there recently on visitor visas, and the Homeland Security officers are basically saying, "Now, this is not right. You're doing something else. The three of you." three owners of businesses in Dubai are coming here. This is your seventh trip in the last 3 months to go on vacation together. This is not right. You're on the next flight back to Dubai. And, you know, we got a call. We were all set up in our conference room. So how do we handle that? As I never knew, I never really quite understood what do we expect. And then they want to bring in things with them. They want to bring in the type of wine that they want to use, the type of cheese that they want to use. It's really problematic for us at times when we're dealing with first time importers.
Yeah. Yeah, with travel, we get that question, the part on the immigration perspective, we get that all the time. People are setting up a new business, especially. You have to come in often. You have your business abroad, which you have to attend to. You have your business in the US you want to set up. It's not set up yet. It's going to require a lot of travel. And it's not a bright line rule. It's a pattern. Similar to what Denise was saying. Everything is a pattern for them.
And they already have your record.
Is it too frequent? Who travels that frequently on vacation with the same three people if they're not related to you, right?
I mean, and they happen to be three partners in the same business.
Yeah,
So,
it's like, what are you doing here?
I think
Again, and that's frequent. And the frequency, we always tell them, it's a pattern frequency. If you really live abroad, you work abroad, and you spend more time in the US in that short period of time, something's off, right? Something's off.
that's a good barometer. And they want to bring in, I don't know, I don't know why they want to show me the wine that they want to present. They show me the cheese that they want to use, and all that is problematic. I'm assuming if they get nailed, Denise.
Yeah, I think first is you know, space it out a little, right? Because I do think that sounds like a lot, especially if they don't have an immigration status that permits for that type of travel. I don't dabble in that world. That's, you know, but at a minimum, maybe they should just do a trip request and make sure that like that's on file and they put their number attached to every single booking that they have. That way it's a record saying, look, I get you guys are flagging me for something, but I want to put my story on the record. Is it going to reduce the amount of flag screening? Questionable. Will it reduce the likelihood that they get returned back around? I think it can help, right? Reduce that risk just because it's clear the intention is on the record that they're coming for business purposes, but they have to have proof of a legitimate business
And
purpose.
Trip
How
is
about the immigration end of that? Because are they allowed to do that on visitor visas?
But trip, we just want to explain to anyone what trip is. That's our language.
Right. Thank you.
What is trip? Sorry to interrupt for 1 second, Lou, because she said you can go ahead and make a request on trip. But trip is a form you can get online, and it's the trusted traveler form, and you can declare things ahead of time, or you can, like she said, put your story on record to the agency that this is happening, because at some point it may come in handy. That's all I want to say. Trip is a form.
The minute somebody gets put through secondary, the minute somebody goes through secondary, they should be reaching out to, if they're foreigners, immigration counsel. If they're not, customs, depending on what the issue, the reason they're being flagged. So they put in this redress inquiry. So at least it's in there so that they can try to avoid secondary. Secondary is not a fun place to be in. They call it the small room. It's not really a small room. I took a tour there. It's really not small at all, but it is stressful. You don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to let you in? Are they going to return you? You sit there for hours on end. You can't forget if you have a connecting flight. You can just
and they make it sound like it's like a little stool. It's like,
and it's not a bar.
I've been there.
Yeah, you've been to secondary,
You've been
Lou?
there?
Yeah,
I've been
we'll
to
talk about
secondary.
that later. But trip is travel.
You know, and I still don't know why.
Travel redress.
When I was going through, I got flagged. Because says no, you need to go in and have a conversation, and they gave me my
And
test.
for clarification, Lou is a U.S. citizen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We walked in, and Marcela's right. It's a big room, but I then got called into a smaller room, and
The rooms get smaller and
I've
smaller.
been here, done that. I'm a retired federal law enforcement agent, so I've been here, done that. But when you're on that end of it, it's still a little bit nerve-wracking, and I can imagine what it is for people who are not used to it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I still don't know why or how, but they went through the whole thing, emptied this out, asked a couple of questions, gave me my driver's license and passport back and a cell phone back, and said, okay, have a nice day, and out I went. But it's that secondary is a little bit scary. I still don't understand, though, how does my client in Dubai in advance tell you that they're bringing this, and that in for purposes of discussing with their U.S. counterparts if this is a proper product to use in their business when they're not supposed to be coming in for business purposes. That's where the dichotomy is, I think.
So I can't speak to the immigration question, right? What I can say is, like, every good that is imported, especially if it's being imported for business use, should be evaluated for compliance purposes, because there's personal use exceptions, there's samples, trade show exemptions, right? So there's a lot of carve outs for those type of transactions, because again, customs role is, one, security, but also facilitate legitimate trade. So there are ways to get things in, but it's not a blanket answer, unfortunately. That, the blanket answer is there's compliance to be done and making sure that it does meet those exemptions. When it comes to cheese in particular, very careful. USDA does not play around, and it has to come from a country that is permitted. Cheese is highly regulated, and if you think about it, it's a dairy, and it's the reason it's highly regulated is because we're protecting our dairy industry, as nuanced as that of an issue.
And disease. I mean,
disease, yeah.
I mean, you could be bringing something in and selling pork.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
Minnesota, agricultural country.
The answer is if they're going to bring anything is to engage Customs Counsel and to get it right, because we can't give them that answer.
And to your immigration, if they say they're coming for vacation and they're bringing this and they're going to explain that it's for business, right there, they're inconsistent.
Right. Exactly.
Right there.
So they have to come in, the B1, B2, or the ESTA is for business and leisure. So you have to tell your story. It's for business and leisure. It could be both, but mostly for business, to have meetings, right? Meetings are permissible. Looking at places where you're going to rent to start up a business, that's permissible. You got to be careful when it's too frequent or the business is too far advanced where you're almost at setup, because then it starts crossing over. Is it actually productive business? Is it gainful employment? So that's where that frequency of travel starts to trigger problems. Yeah. And it also, and where you're from, huge thing. No one likes to talk about it, but it matters where you're coming from. You're coming from Europe, you're coming from South America.
South America is tricky.
I wanted to go
tricky.
You definitely filled in the gap for me while I was drinking my coffee. Here are some of the issues that we face, but you guys are obviously deeper into the exchanges, and it's a difficult world when you have all of these regulatory spheres crossing one another at the same time, at the same moment. Everybody is crossing at the same time. It gets complicated.
Lou, I think that's a really good point. I mean, think about it. When you're a traveler, you're coming in here, you've planned for your trip somehow, business or leisure. You've made a decision, you have a purpose for coming. The purpose is important to you. And right there you are in this example in the Miami airport, and you are dealing with all these rules, right? You're just happy to get in, but no, we're being flagged into customs, right? And what comes first? In the Miami airport, for example, would you go before, where would you be flagged into customs?
So that usually happens when you're passing through the actual entry pathway when you're speaking with an officer.
Yeah.
And it's also system based, right? It could be something that you say there, something that you've done during that transaction since you boarded the flight, on flight, like all through that entire process, data is being intaken. Either, you know, Colombia talks to the US, listen, I just realized this just happened. They're on flight. Be ready. I've seen that happen,
Yeah.
right?
When I worked for the government, that was not uncommon.
Right. And you know, it's coordination, because it reflects on both governments and who's the national, what's the nationality of the person that is being targeted. You know, the kiosk, I say Colombia because that's where I'm from, so it's what I'm used to seeing. But the kiosk would flag something, the questioning and responses, your documentation, actions. And then another part if you do get flagged to secondary, I just think it's important. You know, Lou, you gave us insight, you've experienced it. I only know it from secondhand accounts and my descriptions and my petition where, you know, Customs has taken currency, for example, because a family broke out $15,000 among all the members of their family. And, you know, that there's sometimes handcuffs involved. It's not the most comfortable, it's not welcoming, and there's a purpose for that, right? It's one, you might pose a real risk to those in secondary inspection according to the record that they're seeing. And I think for anyone watching this is if you get sent to secondary, take it as serious as you can because you are under potential investigation and you don't know what they see on the other side. You don't know if they're confusing your name for someone else, which happens so frequently. You also, you know, when children are involved, because I see this happen a lot with families where husband, wife are traveling with their kids, but husband or wife, family, someone is engaging in a business meeting as well, right? Where they're the ones that are targeted, but they're traveling with the rest of their family. Their family will be segregated, but the children will be exposed to seeing that, right? And there's a certain layer that we have to be mindful that you want to reduce the risk of you ever being sent to secondary as much as possible because the impression is serious. It is a serious interaction with the US government. Be consistent, have your paper records, make sure that if you do not know what the reason is there for, you make it clear and say, I don't know why I'm being flagged for secondary. You don't have to ask questions as to, you know, because the nervous behavior is something, a red flag in itself. So just be cooperative, answer what you do know truthfully. And if you're not sure, it's okay to say, I don't know, but I want you to be mindful that if at one point in the line of questioning from the kiosk to the officer who you first spoke to, if you say, I do know, and now you're saying, I don't know, that's an inconsistent statement. And it will really jeopardize a case moving forward. As simple as, who are you traveling with? Oh, I'm traveling by myself. And you know that you're not, right? Because your family passed through and this officer didn't see you with your family, right? You can't outsmart the government. You can't outsmart the system in these scenarios. The only thing that you can do is be consistent, be truthful, and less is more.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think that that's the same thing with immigration as well. Less is more, and you can't. They have all the information. Like with immigration, it's best to say I withdraw my application, as opposed to getting a deportation charge.
Yeah.
If you find yourself, I don't know, with customs, to say, oh, I had no idea where this money came from, right? My God, someone planted it on the airplane. I mean, at least with immigration, I mean, you can just say, I want to withdraw my application right now. I don't feel comfortable. I will go back home. They may allow you to do that unless, it's serious or something like this. Sometimes when people have come a lot, they'll say, well, listen, sometimes the immigration officer will be like, you know what? Do you want to come in? That's your opening to say, no, I do not, because you won't be allowed in and you could have a 5-year deportation. So I think we have a lot of good things on the table here, a lot of fun things to talk about. I have a question, if I can ask. What do you think, Marcela? Can I ask my question?
I don't know what the question is.
I said to you, I have this really deep question.
Okay. There's been a lot of questions.
What happens to everything that they collect? The cheese, this, the money, that. I mean, how does it get, like, do they have a party at and say anyone can, do they have an auction? I mean, what do they do?
What happened to the coats?
Yeah,
What
right.
happened to the Chanel bags?
Oh, so many good questions. And the truth is, there's different things that happen with the goods, right? So let
Can
me
you
give you,
tell us when there's a
yeah,
sale?
yeah, right. At the auction, I always want, I always tell myself, like, look for the auction. You want to see what, like, sometimes it's boats, sometimes it's like outrageous amount of things.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Okay, well,
because
hello.
it's a forfeiture proceeding, so it includes cargo as well. As long as any of the good is legitimate, it will be sold at auction. But let me walk through a little bit of examples from a Miami international or like airport transaction. So I had a client who was traveling, got flagged for secondary. He had his laptop with him, and the government kept it.
Well,
Um,
I would
and he,
die.
oh yeah,
I would be
yeah,
like, my God,
yeah. He
back
almost
up
did.
everything. Back up everything.
So the most important part is if the government is taking something from you, right? They're seizing your goods. They're going to give you a form. You want to make sure that you read the form in front of them. You understand what the form says. Ask questions to them. And at this point, usually the government, the officers are very nice because they've already had to do the, bad. It's the bad cop, good cop role, but except it's usually one officer playing both roles. So now this is the hard part because you think, all right, they explain to you, look, we're just going to keep this. This is the next steps. You start becoming more comfortable. You've been there for a couple hours. That's when you start talking. Again, less is more in through this entire process. They're going to keep it. You can't fight it. It doesn't matter if you have a business meeting. It doesn't matter what record is on there. This is a national security issue for them, and they are going to keep it. So in that case, it actually got flagged for Homeland Security investigation. So the computer got taken from customs from the airport, handed over to HSI Miami. Miami, that's Homeland Security investigation. They reviewed whatever documents or whatever they had to look at the computer for, and then they released it within 3 days. There's nothing you can do about it. That's just the process, right? Had it been, let's say, that they found something on it, then you have a criminal investigation against you. That's how that one would have worked out. Luckily, it closed out and he didn't have anything on there.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I have really good relationships with HSI Miami, and HSI is not that big as far as like the officers that are doing the hard work. So we've built good relationships over the years. But yes, thank you, Patsy. So let's talk about, a scenario of the wine and cheese that came in and it wasn't allowed to come in. I'm not giving a regulatory advice of whether it could or could not. Let's just,
If they're auctioning it, let me know. I have a big party next week.
right? Or let's say a case, right? Because I've seen that happen. A case of
course.
wine comes in, they don't have the proper permit, they didn't talk to TTB, it's not for personal use. They actually have an event that they're bringing it in because I've had that happen during Art Basel Miami, and they want to use this wine at this event, and Customs says no, even though you're hand carrying it as if you're going to use it for personal use. I'm onto you. I'm going to take it. So that actually goes.
AI is onto you.
AI is onto you. Yes, exactly. So that then gets flagged, it gets seized. Again, you're going to get documentation, and the form is going to explain why, not why, but what is being taken from you. And at that point, they're going to open what's called a fines, penalties, and forfeiture case under customs. That office is responsible for proceeding for processing that seizure, and you have the ability to petition the release of that commodity, right? Let's say if it was currency, that's the most often, you have to petition the release of those commodities. If you do not petition it, and let's say you just ignore these letters and you say, I don't want to do anything with it, the government then puts it in, if it is legitimate, because not about counterfeit goods, they put it into a pool and they forfeit the goods, and then that gets moved to Treasury's auction.
And I think,
take it.
and I think, Denise, I think that the auction is where we have to find out, but I think we should leave that. We should leave this with a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I think the cliffhanger is
where's the auction?
We're going to go deeper into how those petitions are formed, what you do, how that helps, along with immigration. And then our cliffhanger for part 2 of customs immigration is going to be, where's the auction? You know, guys, I'm sorry for the time, but it was riveting. Honestly, it's so riveting because this is faces us day to day. I can't thank Lou enough for coming. Denise, you're the star of the show. And Marcela probably
Thank
wants
you.
to end it on a few words.
No, I just want to thank you. Thank you all for being here. So this, you know, I'm still going through like the little details of like, okay, customs, where are we completing that form? Because once they took away that form, it kind of they've really put in a blinder, right? And people in on it with innocence, they're coming in and they're not realizing all of these things. Hopefully, this will help at least to ask, you know, as you pack, literally every item you're packing, you're like, customs, is this customs? Is this customs? But thank you very much for being here, Denise. Lou, good to see you.
Yeah, Marcela, great to see you all the time. And Denise, thank you so very much. There's so much to your wheelhouse that crosses into immigration and our hospitality group also, that I'm looking forward to part 2 also. And we'll be prepared with some other issues to talk to about at that time.
Yeah,
With hospitality and champagne, who knows?
it was so fun to meet with all of you guys and talk about this. I think it was actually a fun conversation versus just a webinar presentation. It's fluid and someone can actually digest this information, and happy to help any way that I can.
Good.
Thank you,
you.
Denise.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.